This is my kitchen table and also my filing system. Over much of the past 3 decades, I've been an investor. The highest calling of mankind, I've often thought, was private equity. And then I started interviewing.
While I watch your interviews, I know how to do some interviewing.
I've learned in doing my interviews how leaders make it to the top.
I asked him how much he wanted. He said $250. I said fine. I didn't negotiate with him, and I did no due diligence.
I have something I'd like to sell, and how they stay there. You don't feel inadequate now because being only the second wealthiest man in the world, is that right? One of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world of cryptocurrency is Sam Bankman-Fried. He's created the FTX platform, and that platform has been so successful in the cryptocurrency world that Sam has become one of the wealthiest men in the world. As a result of this, he's now focusing a lot of his energy on philanthropy. I sat down with him at the Bloomberg headquarters in New York recently to talk about the future of crypto and his desire to change the world and make it a better place. So is crypto down for the count, or is it coming back?
I think it's coming back. And obviously a lot of this is just going to have to do with the macro environment. You know, if we see markets crash again, we're going to see crypto crash along with it. If we see a market recovery, we're going to see a crypto recovery along with it. But I think this is, it's flushed out a lot of the things that needed to be flushed out from the crypto space anyway.
Right. When May of 2022
Yep.
began, I think, a meltdown in tech values and also crypto.
Yep.
Did you get nervous that all of a sudden the world was going to fall apart?
Not super nervous. It's like it was definitely going to be a rocky road for the industry, and you saw some businesses blow up when Bitcoin hit 20K. I think if we saw things melt down much further than they did, right? If we saw NASDAQ drop 30-40% from here and Bitcoin go down to 10K per token, I think you would see another round of pain for the industry that would potentially be more of a medium to long-term problem.
So it didn't give you any gray hair, I can see. So.
Oh, a little bit, but I pluck those out to keep up appearances.
So let me ask you this: when the Bitcoin world was kind of going down a bit, I think Bitcoin peaked at 61,000 or something, and now it's at 23,000. But it went as low as
17, 18,000.
17, 18. When it did, a lot of other cryptocurrencies went down as well. You bailed out some companies.
Yeah.
What money did you use to do that?
So there were a few different versions of it, and one piece of this was basically FTX's balance sheet. Like, we keep our corporate cash just in dollars, and so we'd raised a few $1 billion over the course of the last couple of years, and we're a profitable business. Now we'd also done some acquisitions, which partially balances that out, but we had some cash left, and with the BlockFi deal, for instance, that was on FTX. I think FTX US's balance sheet.
Well, when Wall Street had its problems early in the 20th century, Mr. J.P. Morgan himself used to go out and say, I'm going to bail out certain companies, and you were called the J.P. Morgan of crypto. Did that bother you, or did not?
It doesn't bother me too much. I mean, I think it's something I thought was the right thing for the industry, and our very explicit mandate that we sort of gave to the team of people working on this was, your goal is not to make a fortune for us doing this. Like, your goal is to do okay deals. Your goal is for us to not get our faces ripped off, but contingent on that, do as much as we can to bail out the industry. And that was the higher goal, was trying to backstop places rather than maximizing on these deals. I would have loved other people to do it. Like, I think it would have been great.
So you went in, you bought some companies. Were those investments profitable?
Mixed is basically the answer. I think some are going to turn out to be profitable, some won't be. Like, one of them certainly, I mean, with Voyager, I think there's $70 million there that we put in that I'm not sure we're ever seeing that $70 million again. And so, we had to make snap judgment calls, and we made them such that if things turned out well, they'd be good investments, and if they turned out badly, they'd be bad investments. But we sort of limited the amount that we could lose from it.
Why do so many young people seem so attracted to crypto? I mean, I know there are people from all over the world of all ages, but it seems like young people particularly are very interested. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, partially it's a new thing that's going to appeal to younger people, but I think another aspect of this is if you're, 21 years old and you're trying to get access to markets, you want to be able to trade, to invest. You can sign up for an account on a crypto exchange and get full market access. If you try and get that same level of access in equities and commodities, you can't get it. You're going to end up with heavily intermediated access that has like pretty limited amounts of real interactiveness, limited amounts of liquidity, limited amounts of size, limited amounts of market data. And so I think for a natively digital generation that's looking to take more control of their finances, actually being able to do it with crypto is a big difference.
So in your own case, you got involved with crypto at what age?
I was, boy, I guess it was 25 or so.
And did you ever imagine that at 25, when you got involved, you would now be one of the most important people in the crypto world and have become a multi-billionaire?
No, well, no, although the crypto world has also grown quite a bit since I got involved. But I was surprised at how big things grew in general, how big I was able to grow things. I thought there was a chance of it. Like I did see pretty high upside when I got involved. I was surprised that we actually got there.
So today you're running FTX. You started FTX in what year?
2019.
And what does it actually do?
So it's a cryptocurrency exchange is what we call it, but really it's a combination of a few different businesses. If you compare it to traditional finance, right, you have the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, ICE, and CME as the exchanges, and that's where bids and offers cross. But you don't go to NewYorkStockExchange.com to send an order. They are primarily the sort of back-end trading infrastructure. Separately, you have brokerages, FCMs, and other businesses that sit in the front that consumers access. And then you have different settlement and sort of custody parties sitting in the middle there. In crypto, all of that gets squashed traditionally into one entity. And so what FTX is, it's sort of all of those things. It's a back-end, matching engine, risk engine, custody system, say front-end, mobile app, website, API, and everything in between, so that if you want to buy or sell a Bitcoin, you can go to ftx.com, and we offer all the services necessary to do that, except for buying and selling.
So you got involved because you thought it would be a creative new area to get involved with, but was making a lot of money at one of your goals?
Yeah, it was, and in particular, when I was in college, I sort of went to a lot of charities that I really respected and said, hey, what can I do to help you guys out? Like, do you want me to work for you? And they basically said, not really. I mean, you could, but it'd be kind of mediocre. What they say is they'd rather my money than my time. And so I ended up going onto Wall Street and then getting involved with crypto with the goal of donating what I made.
So let's go back to your youth. Not that you're old now. You're how old?
30 years old.
30 years old. So let's go back to, let's say, when you were growing up. You grew up in California?
Yep, on Stanford campus.
And your parents were both professors at Stanford Law School?
Yeah.
And one's name was Professor Fried?
Yep.
And one is Professor Bankman. So whose idea was it to combine the two into one name?
I think they kind of both had the idea. I think there's a little bit hashing out of exactly what that would look like. Would it be Bankman-Fried? Would it be Fried-Bankman? But I think they kind of mutually came to that decision.
So if you got married someday and you
it'd be a show, yeah.
So you'd have two hyphens.
Right. Well, especially if I married someone with a hyphenated last name, right? Then you've got 4 names. I think at that point we just have to roll a die and choose one.
Oh wow. Okay. So you've thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, you could also just choose a totally new name.
But would it be particularly attractive to find somebody who had a hyphenated name, or not really?
Oh, I think it'd be worth one good story. That's what I'd get out of it. On the scale of life partners, not the most important criteria.
Okay, so you're growing up. Your parents are distinguished professors at Stanford Law School. Were you interested in the law at any point or not?
Not at all growing up. I think I've become more interested in it recently, but when I was growing up, my parents told me, look, you can do whatever you want with your life. We don't particularly recommend that you become a lawyer, but you're welcome to do whatever you want.
So you were a bit of a math prodigy when you were younger?
I was certainly better at math than I was at reading or literature.
So you went to MIT?
Yep.
And when you got there, did you find that people were smarter than you thought or not as smart as you thought?
I think smarter than I thought. I think maybe some part of me had hoped that I would, be able to live a life where I, was always clearly sort of like, an outlier on that. And I think MIT taught me that wasn't true, that there were a lot of other really smart people in the world. And, it was really interesting and cool getting to know them.
So when you get to MIT, did you say, look, I'm going to go out and become a multi-billionaire before I'm 30?
No, I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, I weakly thought I was going to become a professor, not for any particular reason. I realized I didn't really like academia when I was there, and that left me kind of a little bit lost about what I would actually do with my life.
So what did you major in?
Physics, technically. I took about the bare minimum that you could imagine. I took maybe 7 or 8 physics classes my whole time there.
So what did you really take courses in, math or?
I took some, I minored in math, but I took a kind of potpourri of classes. You know, some poli-sci classes, some econ, some psychology, but really I also didn't take that many classes and sort of got a little burnt out of academia. And
right. So when you
school.
graduated, what did your parents say to you about what you should do upon graduation?
I mean, mostly they said I should do what I wanted and what like I thought was whatever I thought would be exciting. And you know, they're going to support me with whatever, but going to like junior year of college, I had no idea what that was going to be. I was sort of had just ruled out or soft ruled out academia and didn't know what was going to replace it. I ended up interning at Jane Street, a finance firm, after my junior year and really liked it there and was starting to chart a path forward of donating money.
Okay, so what did you do upon graduation? You took a job in finance?
Yep, went back to Jane Street, worked there full time.
And what did they do?
They're a quant trading firm, so I was on the international ETF desk. Basically, that means you have a US listed fund that owns a lot of foreign stocks. So, you know, you could look at EEM, US listed ETF that owns a bunch of emerging market companies, you know, across Asia, across LATAM, and you know, a few places in Europe. And it's basically a combination of like modeling, computer trading, and real-time intuition kind of jumbled together.
And how many years were you doing that?
About 3.5 years.
All right, then after that you said, I'm going to go start something in the crypto world?
Not quite. So I left in let's say fall 2017 roughly. Not sure what I was actually going to do next. What I'd really done was sort of written down like 12 things I could do with my life and felt like a lot of them were compelling and I didn't know what was going to be best, but that, you know, the only way to try would be to leave and just dive into some of them.
All right, so you started your own company. What was it called?
So Alameda Research is the first company I started up, and it was a crypto quant trading firm. And, you know, the sort of founding of it was basically, well, you know, Bitcoin was trading on a lot of different crypto exchanges, and it was not trading at the same price on all of them. So you might see it trading for $10,000 on Coinbase and $10,100 on Bitstamp. And, you know, in theory, there's a 1% arbitrage to do there, trading those against each other.
All right, so you decided to more or less trade Bitcoin or other cryptos and take some arbitrage advantage. Yep. And it was profitable, I presume.
Yep, it was. It was a huge amount of logistical work. Like finding the trades was the easy part. The hard part was getting the accounts, sending wire transfers, opening up entities, and all of the other sort of operational work that went into actually being able to execute.
And normally when people start companies, they get venture capital money, and those venture capitalists own a piece of it. Did you get venture capital money?
I did not for Alameda, and part of this was, you know, we talked with some VC firms, and our pitch was basically, hey guys, good news, bunch of 25-year-olds. We don't really know what a Bitcoin is, but we're trading it. Also, this is all crypto, and you know, we got a startup together. None of us has run a company before, and we'd like $100 million by next Tuesday, ideally. It was not a very compelling pitch for investors.
So you got turned down.
Oh yeah, I mean, no one, you know, people were like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I hope you find success. And, you know, no one was, and so what we ended up doing was basically cobbling together lines of credit and other things from various sources, trying to sort of snowball and be able to build on ourselves.
Okay, so after that, you started another company, FTX.
Yeah.
Now, what does FTX do that your first company didn't do?
So Alameda is buying and selling. Like, it's trading for its own book and, you know, trying to do profitable trades. FTX, you can think of it as infrastructure. It's markets infrastructure. So everything that sits between a buyer and a seller. So FTX doesn't buy and sell itself, but it's a venue where people can go to trade crypto, and you know, that aims to solve sort of every piece in between those two parties, from, you know, the clearing and settlement and custody, the, you know, anti-money laundering, know your customer policies, the compliance, you know, the matching engine, the risk engine, the front end, and everything else.
All right, so why does somebody come to FTX and use you as opposed to one of the other similar exchanges? Yeah,
I mean, you know, to each his own, but the things that I think we've particularly specialized in and been good at, you know, one, we've been pretty, you know, fast-moving and innovative. You know, we're a relatively new venue, but we've put a lot of thought into exactly how our products are designed.
Where's the company based?
So we have a lot of offices for regulatory reasons. So as an example, we have a new Tokyo office with a bunch of people in it because we now have a JFSA Type 1 financial services license there. So we have like little bases in a number of the jurisdictions that we are licensed and regulated in, but our biggest offices in the United States is Chicago, and outside the United States is Nassau in the Bahamas.
All right, so you live in Nassau.
That's right.
And is that a tough place to live?
It's really tough. It's a hard life.
And so how do you put up with the pleasure of going to the beach or not versus working?
I'm, for better or for worse, not the person most tempted in the world to go to the beach. I enjoy it being there. I like going there once every couple months, but I don't spend a lot of time outside. I'm pretty much just in the office.
So you don't look like you have a tan or anything?
No, not so much.
In the case of cryptocurrencies today, I think now's the time to get in, it's good, or now is the time to wait to see where the market's going?
The biggest thing I would say is don't put in more than you're, fine losing.
So very often when people get wealthy, they buy fancy suits and so forth. You haven't gone to that phase yet, right?
Not so much.
Your outfit is pretty much standard. It's some kind of t-shirt, shorts, tennis shoes. Is that what you wear all the time?
When I go to Washington, D.C., I have a suit there because I have to wear it on the Hill. But outside of that, yeah.
So are you thinking of buying a house to live in, or where do you live?
I live in the nine colleagues and I bought a large apartment together near our office that we live in. And I'm sort of really fortunate to be able to have a really comfortable life and not have to worry ever about, money for myself. But I'm not particularly excited to dive into luxury. I'm not excited about yachts. And I both think it's not what I should do with my money. I think I should be thinking about how I can help the world with it. It also just isn't who I am.
So do you go to Washington much to lobby with members of Congress and or regulators? And is that an uplifting experience for you?
I go a lot. I'm there probably every few weeks. And it's been a surprisingly uplifting experience. I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to be a real slog. And I think it could have been in a slightly different universe where you saw continued wars going on between regulators and the industry. What we've tried really hard to do over the last year is get the industry to a place where it is happy to accept sensible regulation, and I think that's helped turn down the volume a little bit on the arguments and get to a place where most people are honestly trying to engage on what's the important federal oversight that we need to give to the industry, how can we do that in a way that makes sense given how the industry operates.
The crypto industry seems to want to be regulated by the CFTC, and some people want the SEC to be the principal regulator. Do you have a view on this?
So in the end, both are going to be regulators. And, the CFTC is going to regulate commodity futures. So it's going to regulate, very likely, futures on tokens that are not securities. The SEC is very likely going to end up regulating spot security token markets. And there's some territory in between there when you look at spot commodity markets, when you look at what a security token futures regime might look like. Those may end up as joint regimes. They may end up in one place or the other. In principle, I'm fine with either regulator or any combination of them. I think that the non-security token aspect of this is a nice fit for the CFTC's regime.
Now, in our country, when you want to have some influence with government, very often people make campaign contributions, as they're called, and you've become a large donor to political candidates. Is it because you want some influence on the policy of crypto, or is it just you think these candidates are good public servants?
It's mostly just looking for good public servants. Like, that is by far the most important thing to me. And look, there are a lot of issues that matter, but there's also just this correlated aspect of, like, are they going to be fighting to what they think is right for the country in general? And, the single issue that I have sort of spent the most time, thinking about the most money, donating to on the political side is pandemic prevention, which has nothing to do with crypto. But it's, ultimately what I think is, one of the most important issues for the world over the next,
So how do you find political fundraisers? They come to you directly? Is it easy to get to you and say, we need this money for this candidate? And what type of candidates do you tend to support?
Oh, yeah. Well, if I pulled out my phone here and just looked at my last 10 text messages, about half of them are going to be people asking for, politicians asking for contributions. But those. Do
you have a political expert or advisor?
Yeah, so I obviously ignore the text messages. I've got a few people on the ground in DC who are sort of actually running the operations stage.
So when you give money to a candidate and he or she gets elected, do they respond to you when you call them later, or not really?
Some do, some don't, and it's always super happy to talk, but it's not generally the primary goal. Like, the primary goal is generally that I thought they would be a good legislator.
Do you get involved with presidential campaigns? Are you going to be involved in this campaign that's coming up in a couple of years?
It's a good question. The answer is maybe. It totally depends on who's running, on what the race looks like. I'll give a couple thoughts. The first is, I might be very involved. I might not be involved at all. I might be involved on either side or both. And in general, my sense is that primaries are really important. And I think this is true for the presidency as well. I think this is something a lot of people miss, is that if your goal is partisan, then you basically have to operate in general elections. That's when partisan splits are determined. But if your goal is getting like good public servants and people who are really fighting for what's right for the country, there are people who do and don't fit that description on both sides of the aisle. And you have these contests which are way lower stakes from a partisan perspective. It gets rid of a lot of the noise and competition. And there are great opportunities to support people who would just be good public servants.
So you support people of both parties?
Yeah.
Okay. And today, you would not consider running for office yourself, right?
I would be an insane thing for me to do as a fourth job to tack on to the other things I'm doing.
And can you see doing this for another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years like this?
I think so. When I get burnt out because I'm out of useful things to do on a topic. I don't tend to get burnt out from work or stress.
Well, crypto came along relatively recently. I guess Bitcoin was invented in 2009, but relatively recently it's become a big phenomenon. Do you see any other phenomenon like that you might get involved with as well?
Potentially. Look, eventually AI. I think, right now we're at the stage of AI being mediocre chatbots instead of really bad chatbots, but that's going to change over time, and mark to 10, 20 years from now, we may be having a very different conversation.
So I have not bought any cryptocurrencies. I have invested in companies that service the industry, but I haven't bought crypto myself. Let's suppose I said I wanted to buy some cryptocurrencies. What would you recommend to me or anybody else?
Well, first thing is I try not to give investment advice, and what I would say is the most effective and useful thing you can do is just try everything out. Take $10, feed it through every protocol, feed it through every exchange, see what it's like, get a first-hand experience of using a blockchain explorer, doing a trade, and that will teach you a lot about how the industry functions. I think I've been really interested in a few different areas of the space. I think I've been interested in scalable blockchains. I've been interested, obviously, in the exchange and platform space, especially on the regulated side. And then I'm super excited about the potential for blockchain-based social media, to the extent that there are projects coming out, in that area around remittances and payments and around market structure. Those are the places that I'm looking at the most right now.
So in the case of cryptocurrencies today, would you think now's a time to get in, it's good, or now is a time to wait to see where the market's going?
So I think what I would say is there's potentially a lot of profit you could make. You could also lose, though. Like, things can go up, things can go down. There is, a lot of upside potential. The biggest thing I would say is don't put in more than you're, fine losing. Like, don't put in money that you would be really, really sad to lose into, crypto right now. Think of it more as an upside play. When
you leave this interview and you go outside, can you walk down the streets of New York without anybody bothering you?
It's borderline. So I think probably a 0.5% or 1/3% or something of people recognize me here. And so, the real answer is like every 10 minutes that I'm walking on the streets, someone will recognize me roughly. It's a little bit in between.
Well, what you can do is get a comb your hair, get a suit, and then that'd be your disguise.
It's true. I could just look normal, and that would.
But you haven't thought of that? Not likely.
No, that's beyond me.